Europe's War by Ignatius BRENNAN. Read for LibriVox.org by Eliza Swan. See the crowd are standing yonder, see another here and there. Heads together and we wonder, what on earth is in the air? Each one seems right, at attention, listening, talking earnestly. We grow bold at last and mention what these confabs mean, and we find 'tis what we all abhor. Talk is all of war, war, war. True, and none would dare be quizzing when 'twill start. 'Tis on today. War dogs belching, bullets whizzing, claiming human lives for prey. Europe's sun is crimson painted, shining fiercely from her sky. Europe's streams are hued and tainted with blood of her Yemen rye. Europe's heartstrings sad and torn, homes deserted and forlorn. Tales of carnage that the sages tell us of the olden time, writ on history's living pages, both prosaic and in rhyme, will remain but unastounding when compared with what we'll see in this strife that seems abounding, even more than rivalry. Hate's dire venom, seed of Mars, rules in this, the worst of wars. Austrian blood and the Slavonic will be mixed with Russian gore. French, Italian, and Teutonic now will run as ne'er before. England's best will intermingle with the Mongol Japs, and old Mother Earth will be a tingle as she quaffs them manifold. War, what mind would stop to praise your worldwide devastating ways? Would our pen were so prolific it could drip the words to bring settlement of the Pacific, sought to last from spring to spring. Peace, God's chiefest gift, and given that in our opinion we all may have a glimpse of heaven. In this world of jealousy, peace. Ah, would that she today were reigning where the war dogs play. This recording is now in the public domain.
Wild Bob Burman by Ignatius BRENNAN. Read for LibriVox.org by Foon. See that awful hood he wore as he broke all records driving. Looks 'bout the knights of yore when they started out for gore, or the lad who does the diving. Hate to meet him in the dark after, say, a 10 days' lark. My, the mighty run he made, more'n a mile in half a minute. Nerve must be of special grade, with no streak of yellow shade anywhere about or in it. Goer, Bob, will pat your back every time you clean the track. But, Sir Robert, wait a bit, while I preach a little sermon. Long as you are strictly it, you'll be sure to make a hit. Cheer on cheer for Wild Bob Burman, but when someone trims you, Bob, right from then you'll be a slob. Then another thing I'll say, be ye Irish, Dutch, or German, something's going to give away on your autocar some day. Rest in peace for Wild Bob Burman. Keep your soul as nice and clean as your Blitzen Benz machine. When you're gone we'll buy some flowers, place them sadly round your casket, reminisce with friends of ours how we worked for hours and hours, gathering you into the basket. Bob, you do as you durn please, we'll still use the single trees. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Woman with the Baby by Ignatius BRENNAN. Read for LibriVox.org by VelmaCariss, August 2018, California. Poet after poet, and prosaic lad as well, in deepest concentration have endeavored best to tell of a subject where each writer would be happy to excel. The woman, precious woman, with the baby. They have told and told it truly that no matter where she goes, and no matter what her station, or no matter what her clothes, she is always shown an honor that a mother only knows. This woman, much loved woman, with the baby. No matter though the streetcar may be crowded to the door, or the ferry boat be jammed as one had never seen before, or the Pullman be so packed until you think no room for more. There's room for her, this woman, with the baby. The church pew may be filled and others crowded in the aisle, the standing room sign flaunted in the theater's best style. Just let this lady enter with her kiddo and a smile. there's always space for Mama and the baby. Or take the town on circus day with streets one surging mass, pedestrians a-pressing on in hopes to find a pass. Her ladyship approaches with her go-kart, largest class. We find a path for Mama and the baby. Again we see the midway at the circus or the fair, squeezed in like French sardines and pushing, crowding here and there. A squall from out the kidlet, so demanding, rents the air. We doff our hats to Mama and the baby. But did you ever chance to see the father and the kid when Mama's out a-searching for the springtime's latest lid? A-hanging to the strap while chorus jingles, "Get the skid!" 'Tis quite a joke, this daddy and the baby. Just see him with his offspring gently seated on his wing, and Mama, God knows where she is, but that's another thing. We watch him moving up the street. Well, boys, it's time to sing. A few more years, 'tis Papa and the baby. These few more years are coming, 'tis the safest sort of bet. The years when man will gnash his teeth and weep and wail and fret because he cast his vote by which he made the suffragette. And then goodbye to Mama and the baby. For if by chance the stork should drop a baby here and there, the man with equal rights, of course, will have to do his share. A rocking of the cradle while the mother will prepare a bill to pension Daddy and the baby. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Vale, 1914, by Ignatius BRENNAN, read for LibriVox.org by BettyB. Goodbye, old year, 1914. Tonight at 12 you're due to scoot, and nowise wishing to be mean, we hope you'll shoot the smoothest chute into the deepest lake, you bet, wherein your boat may then upset and throw you out into the pool, whereat you'll have a chance to cool. From all the warm things said of you, you've surely been an old hoodoo. Now when the old bell peals the hour, don't feign you're not quite packed to go. We'll do all things within our power to see your trunks are thus and so. In fact, you haven't much to pack, but we'll put one bunch on your back, and rightly hope to hold it there till you've vamoosed into the air. Bad business brought by strife and fray, 1914, Vale, Vale. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Welcome, 1915, by Ignatius BRENNAN, read for LibriVox.org by BettyB. Well, 1915, howdy-do. With open arms, welcome to you. We ask you, be our guest. We hope you've brought with you today good cheer, good times to make your stay, with every comfort blessed. At every fireside in the land, we'll meet you with an outstretched hand, and coax you sit and lend your ear while we tell what we want this year. We'll ask you first to give us health, then add to our depleted wealth by calling on those men who clasped our coin when times were good and paid us 3%, or should. As time and time again we've shoved our savings through the bars to them and thanked our lucky stars that we knew they would save our swag. Please ask them, ope their money bag. Now while we know it is the rule to never tell tales out of school, we'll take this one small chance your predecessor got in wrong right from the start. He played things strong and led us all a dance. He gave us war, the worst one e'er, that killed our commerce everywhere. He never cut one high price down, just acted reckless as a clown. We ask of you to take his slate and crack it on his shiny pate and place yours in its stead. Then right thereon, I'll stop this fight. The mills and marts I'll start aright. I'll cut on meat and bread. I'll mine the coal in every hill. I'll start again the oilman's drill. Now if you do these things, my boy, you're purest gold with no alloy. Then when your new successor'll come, we'll tell him he must travel some. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. When Men Heed by Ignatius BRENNAN. Read for LibriVox.org by BettyB. A mob would never be a mob if all would only heed their better judgment's call. None e'er would bow in grief that awful day when called to wash the crimson stain away. If men be guided by advice of men who oft drove passioned folly to her glen. The teaching that the blade we wish to send through our opponent's heart must, at its end, be charged with acid, vitriolic kind, before 'twill do the work we have in mind, is wrong, for when the fiendish work is done, strong foes by scores replace the single one. We have, too, the oppressor, humankind, who sees our faults, but to his own is blind, whose mandates are so ironclad and bold, who's complimented when decreed as cold, who, should his drastic rulings chaos bring, would hide behind the battlements and sing. Whene'er a radical on either side presumes to act as counselor and guide, 'tis naught but sheerest duty that we say, a cool, conservative, and splendid nay, that he may learn the lesson there and then, do unto men as you'd be done by men. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Old Mulberry Tree by Ignatius BRENNAN. Read for LibriVox.org by BettyB. I dreamed, and my fanciful wanderings took me back to my home in the dell. I played in the willows, 'longside of the brook. I plucked the blue violets, lounged in the nook, by nature arranged, and so well. I strolled through the orchard, I drank of the spring, whose waters were sweeter to me than nectar of gods or the wine of the king. I sat, while the robins so sweetly did sing from the top of the mulberry tree. Then I woke, for the thoughts of that mulberry tree were more than my brain could withstand, for I saw myself climbing with youthful like glee to the very tip-top where the robin sang free, and I was the king of the land. The dear juicy berry, 2 inches or so, and a 1/4 inch thick in the least. I knew just the limbs where the big ones would grow, and once I was anchored, I'll have you to know, I was there for a mulberry feast. Sweet, dark-hued and juicy, fistful at a time, one squash and no berry no more. The taste on my palate was simply sublime. How I wish I'd a bunch while I'm penning this rhyme. No, you ne'er stopped to yank out the core. How I'd munch some more, till my poor stomach felt as if 'twas quite ready to bust. I'd grow quite resourceful, unloosen my belt, fill in all that space. How with envy I dwelt on those left as I went in disgust. I see that old tree, and I see myself there with my stain-covered fingers, and say, don't mention my cheeks, as that wouldn't be fair. Say naught of my breeches and naught of the tear. They were at least of my thoughts on that day. Now, take all the scoldings my mother would give, and the trimmings pap handed to me, that made me feel oft as the real fugitive. I'd chance the whole bunch if once more I could live, as I did in that mulberry tree. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
To Our Departed Brothers by Ignatius BRENNAN. Read for LibriVox.org by phone. With heavy hearts and heads bowed low, we gather in God's house today. We turn time's hands to days ago and see our brothers, all aglow, with life and vigor, blithe and gay. We hear their greetings as they pass. The hands turn back, alas, alas! For when their names are called so clear, we list, but no responsive, hear. No, ne'er again upon this shore will their glad salutations ring. The splendid hand-clasp that they bore, the wreathing smile their faces wore, the happy songs they used to sing have all been stilled by that firm hand that becked them to that better land, that land where all choice blessings cling, the land of Him, our God, our King. Our hearts go out in sympathy to all their loved ones left behind. Our loved ones too they are, for we are brothers true in UCT. And we must e'er bear this in mind, that ray of hope that shines for years will help to dry the mourner's tears, and we, behind that hallowed ray, must ne'er forget our part to play. Again, as time moves on apace, we, each, will join death's caravan. Some fair white hand will one day place a lily's bud within the vase, for us, such is the lot of man. And may no everlasting taint of sin our lily's petals paint, and may we reach that blessed land to grasp our brothers hand in hand. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Municipal Christmas Tree by Ignatius BRENNAN, read for LibriVox.org by Foon. Christmas Eve, in the courthouse yard, will gather the painter, the clerk, the bard, the lawyer, the doctor, the teacher, the maid, the mother, the daughter, in best arrayed, the mayor, the sheriff, the editor too, the peer and peasant, the Christian and Jew, where all will be cheered by the singers of song, gathered together in one vast throng. Here all will be merry and full of glee at our municipal Christmas tree. Laden with stockings for girls and boys, filled with candy and nuts and toys from toe to top, and filled again with choicest wishes of women and men, that their days be many and useful ones through the winter's snows and the summer's suns. And to teach this lesson, when grown to men and women, they'll treat the children then, as they've been treated, to them be free, and give them many a Christmas tree. To the goodly women who made this true, an endless amount of credit is due, but appreciation is all they ask, as this good work done was a pleasant task. The gifts themselves are of priceless worth, since they speak of that is best on earth. Love for those who deserve this love, divinely shaped by the one above. This one who spoke with sincerity, suffer the little ones come to me. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Essence of Election Day by Ignatius BRENNAN, read for LibriVox.org by Foon. For 3 long months the mounts and hills and valleys in between have echoed and re-echoed in a most auspicious mien, with sharpened oratory so political each way, but thank the Lord it's finished and today is election day. The campaign is now over, and before tomorrow's sun, the bulletins will tell us all just who has lost and won. The battle of the ballots is now on from shore to shore, the trusty henchmen working as they've done since days of yore, singing out the praises of their candidate to all, who, of course, if not elected, why the government will fall. And every other argument, far-fetched, shelf-worn, and thin, is given so their favorite through any means may win. We see the sturdy yeomanry repairing to the polls, we see the judge and challenger a-scanning well the rolls, to see that each is qualified to exercise the right of suffrage, and if found correct, he does it with a might. We see him coming home with countenance that seems to say, I've done my duty and thank God for our election day. Tomorrow's evening sun will set an officer's brand new, along with those experienced, a wise decision too. And should they be our party's choice, the ones for whom we fought, they're our officials just the same as our forefathers thought. We'll shake the victor's hand with sense, if ours or not our own. In politics, the sovereign folk have made their wishes known. From their inauguration day until their term is o'er, they're servants of the people, simply this and nothing more. And since we like our servants to do right day after day, let's help our office holders in the same well-guided way. Throw politics to windward, put our shoulders to the wheel, flaunt common sense high up above this foolish party zeal. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. In Behalf of Our Retail Clerks by Ignatius BRENNAN, read for LibriVox.org by Foon. How long will this outrage continue? This slave-cursed practice whereby American brain, brawn and sinew is bartered that we may supply our wants when our week's work is ended, a habit from lack of foresight. We ask that this crime be suspended, this toiling on Saturday night. Just gaze through the mesh in the wicket, and watch the poor girls at their work. as timed as the uniformed picket, with far slimmer chances to shirk. Expected all times to be pleasant, though nature is strained to maintain the smile for the peer and the peasant. No, no, she must never complain. From early on each Monday morning till late on each Saturday night, the one steady grind, never scorning employers' or purchasers' right. Though some of the latter are trying, especially those who before their marriage were selling, not buying, and perhaps in this very same store. The great God had never intended that women be made a machine. We'd reckoned her serfdom had ended, as taught by the dear Nazarene. But man, thoughtless man, whose regalings are wafted o'er mountains and lea, and quick to see other men's failings, is blind if this one he can't see. Protectors of organized labor, and we your staunch friends, tried and true, be kind to the girl of our neighbor, or nearer to me and to you. Be not moral cowards by throwing the blame on the merchant, for he would be only too pleased at knowing on Saturday nights he'd be free. So yeomen and women, attention, the remedy's placed in your hand, requiring, e'en but the mention, to wipe this one curse from the land. Let's say, without equivocation, and all with the attachments of might, our clerks must be granted cessation from labor on Saturday night. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Grave I'd Have by Ignatius BRENNAN, read for LibriVox.org by phone. I sit by the side of a lonesome grave, 'tis the grave of a pioneer. History tells he was bold and brave, nor wishes, nor fame, nor honor he'd crave, but the love of those near and dear. A broken stone gives his name and age, and the chiseling rhymester told his virtues as those of the cherished sage, his teachings the best, and his tutelage more value than piles of gold. I fancy the day that the grave was hewn, I fancy the tear-checked sigh, I fancy the flowers o'er his cold form strewn, I fancy the organ's doleful tune, and I fancy each wail and cry. Again I fancy the pledges made that his mound would e'er be green, that the gardener's craft with hoe and spade should never wane, and the cedar's shade would be the best the world has seen. I see it now, a gaping space, with the briars clustered through, and thrifty thistle with bold grimace all decking the last chill resting place of that loved one, tried and true. And in my mind I form the plan of the grave I'd have me in, when I've completed this life's short span, and am stowed away from the views of man, my new life to begin. I'll ask that the hole be good and deep, say 8 feet 6 at least. Be sure, real sure, 'tis my last long sleep, and when all have had a farewell peep, slide me down with my face to east. Then roll the clay in, sure but slow, and tamp it good and tight. Fill every space, I would have you know, so as all may be sure I will stay below, and have given up the fight. Fill, till all space is filled aflush with the other earth around. Still tamp tight, so as no lark or thrush could penetrate in through the silent hush with their much opposing sound. Then place o'er some healthy sod, the thick well-rooted kind, so deft, so well that whoe'er may trod thereby or o'er need never nod with the thought of a grave in mind. I want no stone to tell who's there, no epitaph a song. I'll merely ask an occasional prayer be said that my soul may enter where I'd wished for, oft and long. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. To the Graduates by Ignatius BRENNAN, read for LibriVox.org by phone. Fresh from the fields of bloodless strife, a conqueror you come, not to the sound of shrieking fife, or musketry or drum. No flags are floating to the breeze, no set salute is blared. Yet far more grand than all of these, the honors you have shared. Your brow is decked with wreath of green, so emblematical of mastery, though steel as keen as yours did rise to fall. But with your armor girded on, your trusty blade on high, you fought your way to triumph, won with motto, do or die. Your suns of toil, your restless moons, are reckoned with the past. Your chill Decembers, gloomy Junes, now float at lowest mast. And in their stead we find aflung the brightest hues today. Your pennant is so rightly strung with flowers like those of May. The world stands waiting your debut with arms extended wide. I know not what she holds for you, 'tis not mine to decide. But wishes from this heart of mine, if wishes could endow, may benedictions e'er entwine with laurels on your brow. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Constable's Sale by Ignatius BRENNAN, read for LibriVox.org by Foon. Like vultures hang round near their coveted prey, awaiting the moment to make the attack. Or, like the Avenger, awaiting the day, he'll plunge the cold dagger a hilt in the back of one he imagines has done him a wrong. They stand while the constable bellows his song, and hold in their mind as the uppermost thought, we wonder how cheap this or that can be bought. They never once think of how hearts have been wrung, nor how the choked sobs have been mingled among those hot scalding tears as the driver and van came out for the goods on the levying plan. Those goods on the curb from the dresser to pail, and sold, per the law, at the constable's sale. We stand and look on while the constable cries his once, twice, and thrice, and is going and gone. We watch the crowd surge with the coveting eyes, saying, should we get this, a good day's work we've done. And in 'mongst the throng we see women and men who've listened, aye, listened, time and again, to sermons in charity, sermons that turn the hardest of hearts, but to them yet unlearned. Heard them make bids on the tables and chairs, the carpets that covered the floors and the stairs, the cabinet, stove, and the clothes for the beds. Yes, even the pillows that rested the heads of some poor unfortunates in this sad vale, whose goods are now cried at a constable's sale. The crying is finished, the constable's through, the curb has been cleared of its home-wrecking pawn. We venture to ask, what became of the two who furnished the wares for the sale? They have gone. To God only knows, was the cruel retort, that fell from the lips of a being whose sport is to cry out aloud in a voice strong and clear, how much am I offered? How much do I hear? And mayhap the thing he is proffering there is the crib where the mother has oft knelt in prayer, when her child's fevered brow told the story too true, the story of sad dissolution, and who, in that crowd at the curb, would for once pull the veil from that hallowed crib at the constable's sale. We know 'tis the law, but we venture to say the man who designed it was heartless and chill. A Shylock we'd guess who must first have his pay, and when the last penny is gone from the till, he'll sell even the mattress that gave to those rest, who came in at eventide tired and distressed. Where is the gain, if the man be so poor that he can't pay his debts, it can't help we are sure, to sell his last chattel? Then say to him, you, this day must start in on life's pathway anew. 'Tis wrong, un-American, down with such laws that flaunt a man's poverty, bring out guffaws from the rabble that stands without thought to bewail the hard luck that brought on this constable's sale. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Married for Money by Ignatius BRENNAN, read for LibriVox.org by Foon. He married for money, the neighbors all say. Course, they're in position to know. Maybe he did, as some do this way, and have since the long, long ago. There seems an incentive in doing things rash, that is, when there's truly a jingling of cash. We're slightly inclined to be skeptical though, and gulping this statement as true. Perhaps we'll be rated as passingly slow, when we can't see things as they do. But the girl in the case is good-looking and sweet, accomplished and dresses exquisitely neat. Again, he seems happy as happy can be, and is, I'd be willing to vouch. He ne'er has to drown any cares in a spree, nor shamble around with a grouch. And she seems to think he's the boy of all boys. What else should two want when each one's the big noise? He's right at his desk just the same as the time he was plugging for 20 per week. He guards just as zealously each silver dime as if 'twere a precious antique. He's just as obedient now to the will of his boss as the days he was plain common Bill. They have a fine auto, we hear it is hers. They sit in the box at the show. She diked to the minute, full evening and furs. And he, as her husband and beau, sitting alongside as pompous as life, and, to the reporters, Will Johnson and wife. Now, when we look all these cold facts in the face, we can't take the statement as true. Married for money, when one finds no trace of truth, but we've always a few, anxious it seems, to despoil the good name of anyone seemingly climbing to fame. Course, we don't suppose we will ever be charged with wedding for cash, hardly so, and then spin around with our cocoa and large, just blowing ourselves as we go. But if we do, the above is no joke, the Grundys will all collapse, watching our smoke. So we figured this way, if some lady fair, who's willing to take a small chance on letting us handle her bankroll and square, on the turnabout wearing the pants, we'll gamble none ever will dub us a slob if we hook up thusly and hold our old job. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Telegraph Operator by Ignatius BRENNAN. Read for LibriVox.org by phone. He sits and sends worldwide dots, spaces and dashes. He sits and receives spaces, dashes and dots. He knows each sound made by the electrical flashes that carries the wisdom of famed polyglots. Or doles out vernaculars trot out quite low, to hymns all the same as his copy will show. He sends out the message that tells of the battle. He flashes the other that's brimming with peace. He jots down the lisps of the baby's first prattle, wired by the mother to father who'd lease the telegraph system just then to return an exchange of greetings his dear ones well yearn. He sends forth the messages telling of famine, the ones that affirm beloved copious rain. He also sends some that 'tis best to examine for fear old lax censorship failed to maintain. The facts in the case told in flashes or a wire. Again he sends those with the truth we admire. He dashes and dots out the congratulations sent by happy friends to the groom and the bride, and too he receives with the least expectations the message that tells that some loved one has died. He wires of the markets, the weather, the sea, the tales of depression and prosperity. He strikes off the ball score, the racing of horses, and all current news for the newspapers, then sends on the store of banquet whose courses brought sweet inspiration to women and men. He wires of politics both pro and con, with nobody asking which side he is on. He copies the 19 and 31 order, he puts his OK when the trainman will sign, and fearful that aught towards the danger line's border, he keeps his ear open to things long the line. He gives the white block at the engine's shrill shriek, or holds it at bay till the train runners speak. His ear is so trained that a call for his station is heard as distinctly as calling by name. He springs to the key with a keen exultation that ofttimes has lifted him up into fame. A friend, a good friend to all mankind is he, this knight of the switchboard and knight of the key. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Saleslady by Ignatius BRENNAN. Read for LibriVox.org by phone. She seems born for her work, as her prowess is such, anywhere she may handle, she knows it by heart. And though she be Irish or English or Dutch, you would guess her the firm or at best a big part, as the sail seems the important thing she must do. The truth is, in that line she's one on the Jew. She ranges in style from the blonde to brunette, and she knows what mates best with her color of hair. She's plump, fat and dumpy, with no room to let, and, too, just the opposite, tall, thin and spare. In age, well, she varies forever and anon, but 18 and up we'd be reckoning on. But the age doesn't matter, the size cuts no ice. Her skill is the thing that's amazing to me. and the soft-pedaled way she has telling the price, and making you like it is smart as can be. She's not there to sell just one article, no. You'll be shown her full line 'fore you're due to go. She'll show the fat lady how stripes up and down will make her look slim, and for her very spare, plaids or the mottled or stripes running round, with ruffles and flounces caught up here and there. She knows too the colour of goods she should sell, to match the complexion to make one look well. Her tasks, though quite hard, are so born you would think she ne'er has a trouble or sorrow or care, but she has them in turn, yet they ne'er make her shrink, or swerve from the duties she's destined to bear. She keeps her own counsel, and fights them the while, and covers them o'er with a sunshiny smile. She's one of the links in that varied chain that turns round the wheels in the thrift-mill of life. When treated with justice she'll never complain, and does her full share without quarrel or strife. If we all did our work in as thorough a way as she, this old world would be better today. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Past, Present, and Future by Ignatius BRENNAN. Read for LibriVox.org by Philip Gould. What has become of the old-fashioned fellow, always so happy, congenial, and mellow, whose countenance beamed while he'd talk of the masters, the sculptors of marbles and prized alabasters, the painters who brought down to his generation the world and its peoples on since the creation, the writers of song and the penners of story, the life-work of all who are wreathed in glory. This man who knew Cicero, Virgil, and Homer, knew them in fact, not in paltry misnomer. Catiline, Seneca, Caesar, and Horace, from Chaucer on down till the pages were porous, who always had time for a classical chatter, from the lightest to the most philosophical matter. And though nowise rich, he was aught but dejected, and died of old age most revered and respected. He's gone. In his stead there's a different fellow, who couldn't be happy, and wouldn't be mellow, who does not but figure on buildings and rentage, mortgages, discounts, and extra percentage, stocks, bonds, and deeds, and the best plan to borrow, e'en and anon, yesterday and tomorrow. He dies in his prime. What disease? That's the question. The card on his box reads, acute indigestion. We fear in our hearts for the next generation, money-mad folk with the steeled heart vibration, the face of pure mirth as completely denuded as a 90-day note with the interest included, the eye seeing nothing but $, $, in transit, the ear hears percentage, percentage, percentage from the man who demands it. The mind for the real sweets of life is disabled, could not tell a classic unless it be labeled. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Telephone Girl by Ignatius BRENNAN. Read for LibriVox.org. She sits all the while with unerring attention, watching the light as 'tis flashed for her eye, getting our party as soon as we mention the number. If not, she will find out just why, giving us all information she'll know. This nice little lady who answers, "Hello." She rings up the number that bears the chill message that tells of misfortune, of sickness or death, the one for inquirings of freight or expressage, and those of light nonsense, and those of great breadth. She rings to the friend and rings to the foe, this nice little lady who answers, "Hello." We ask, "Where's the fire?" and she'll give the location. We ask for the time when our clock has run down. We ask for the hour that the train leaves the station. We ask when the circus is coming to town. We've asked, we'll confess it, could we be the beau of this nice little lady who answers, "Hello." We blame her for all of the telephone troubles when wind, sleet, or flood puts a break in the line. For then it would seem our anxiety doubles, and our temper stands out like an old porcupine. We ne'er give her troubles one thought as we go, this nice little lady who answers, "Hello." If every employee in every station was right on the job like dear Nellie or Pearl, we'd have better service in every nation. And this is no jolly Miss Telephone Girl. She's the real indispensable one we all know, this nice little lady who answers, "Hello." End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Go to Church Sunday by Ignatius BRENNAN. Read for LibriVox.org by BettyB. Next Sunday, you know, to the church we will go, and we'll all fall in line to the letter. When we'll list to the creed per the minister's lead, on the homecoming all will feel better. We'll feel that we've rendered a duty we owe to our God and ourselves and our neighbor, and show to the derelict woman and man of the world that our banner of charity's ever unfurled. We rush on our way through each succeeding day, and wish we could only go faster, to fight in the strife of this battle of life with seldom a thought for the Master, who gives us the weapons to win in the fight, the brain and the brawn and the wisdom and sight, the health and the strength. Ah, could we give the same, the tax we'd impose would not brighten our name. We're rightfully made in God's image, 'tis said, and we'll guess of his nature partaker. And since we expect every mode of respect, why not give the same to the Maker? He asks once each week that we bring old and young, one and all, to his house, where we'll sing his praises for blessings bestowed, and likewise for crosses, oft chiefest of gifts in disguise. We argue and fight over which one is right on this and that doctrinal matter, and while we fight on over Matthew and John, the devil is cleaning the platter. So, if a disciple or Catholic, Jew, Episcopal, Methodist, Baptist, or who, resolve on next Sunday we start in our might to worship the God of our fathers aright. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Fulfilled Prophecy by Ignatius BRENNAN. Read for LibriVox.org by Alan Lawley. Today is the day the emblazoning star called forth the shepherds from fields afar, and bade them take their steps and go to Bethlehem in manger low. They would behold this blessed morn the promised Saviour newly born. They would behold this prophecy of ages filled as pledged to be. Aye, this was centuries ago. The same star still with rays aglow shines on and asks all mankind come, not to the sound of fife and drum, but to the sweet-toned chimes appeal that bears the peace on earth's best seal, and not to the manger, but instead to shrines with perfumed flowers o'erspread. To shrines with joyous harp a-ring, to shrines where sweetest voices sing, to shrines where gladness fills the air with hymn and chant and thankful prayer, to shrines where God's anointed men all tell that story o'er again, the story of the Christmas morn, the story of a Saviour born. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The World's Sweetest Story by Ignatius BRENNAN. Read for LibriVox.org by Alan Lawley. List, the sweet tone bells are pealing, pealing from the steeples high. Hark, the choirs are gladly singing in most perfect harmony. Every one we meet looks happy, has a cheerful word to say, and how well we know the reason, our Redeemer's natal day. Christmas, day of days, we gather at the shrines to hear again that 2,000-year-old story told by God's anointed men, telling of the eve proceeding of two strangers, man and wife, seeking shelter as tomorrow meant for all a precious life, telling all about the stable of the wise men of their guide, that strange star that led them onward, blessed star of Christmas tide, telling this world's sweetest story with these characters aglow, Joseph, Mary, and the infant 20 centuries ago. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Ash Wednesday by Ignatius BRENNAN. Read for LibriVox.org by Alan Lawley. Remember, man, that thou art dust, and unto dust thou shalt return. These words were given us in trust, and in our hearts should rightly burn. With zealous flame of purest love, for him who reigns from throne above, for him who in his wisdom gave this sharp reminder of the grave where all things earthly end, the grave that covers foe and friend. This sharp reminder, yes, 'tis true, in those since first we lisped the name, that means so much to me and you, we e'er were taught that to reclaim the heaven one time closed to us, we must be ever vigorous and valiant, that we do our part in right or might with bayonet heart. Yet bear in mind these words so stern, that unto dust thou shalt return. Now, were it not that once a year, at least, we're told to stop and think, that while our minds are fresh and clear, we may, perhaps, be on the brink of that chill resting place, the tomb, wherein our bodies will assume, when just a mite of time shall flee, their first originality, we might plunge madly, madly on, till time and tide had come and gone. Today we seek the chancel rail, absorbed in penitential thought, and garbed in sackcloth, while we hail the words with this firm message fraught. Remember thou art dust, old man, designed on the Almighty's plan, that plan that brings to dust all men, and though restored to life again, to life so well exemplified by him, our Saviour, crucified. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Mother Church by Ignatius BRENNAN. Read for LibriVox.org by Alan Lawley. Written for our Sunday visitor. The thoughts that fill us as we stand before thy massive form, and scan thy steeple o'er, and see the gilded cross well set on high, are those that thou wert never born to die. Thou livest today, not just in song and story, but in the bloom of youth and proudest glory. The bloom of youth, yet centuries have passed, since first thy mould by master hand was cast, to be perfected, yet by minds inspired, again, till time does end, to be admired, revered and loved and ever most respected, and though attacked, to never grow dejected. That promise made thee, that the gates of hell shall not prevail against thee, is put well. For oh, how oft and oft have thy sons, and grouped amongst them, once anointed ones, turned strength against thee, as against a mother, and smote thee with all strength to build another. And too, we find the ones who know'st thou brought, through age on age the very book now taught, who'll stand in other pulpits than thine own, and try to make their teaching grow where sown. When if they're right the gates of hell prevailed, the pledge of pledges spent itself and failed. Again come blows from those who know thee not, who throw thee o'er into the cauldron pot, to wreath and seethe as in that ancient day, when pagan Diocletians held full sway, those men who tear that Saviour pledge asunder, yet thou lookest on like he and never wonder. We find once more the ones who do not care, and though their steeple rises twice the height in air, who, let the light be placed upon the hill, refuse to look its way and never will. The soul's salvation unto them's small matter, and all this talk of God is simple chatter. Yet still thou standest with foundation firm, not to be loosened by the rat or worm, and flauntest thy proud standard to the breeze, that reads, I've preached God's truths for centuries. Yea, thou wilt ever stand his true defender, until thy colours wave o'er all in splendour. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
It's Time to Bid Them Stop by Ignatius BRENNAN. Read for LibriVox.org by April 6090, California, United States of America. Murder? Aye, the foulest brand is running rife today. The brain and brawn of choicest land is held no more than clay. The blood that filled those sterling veins is gushed forth night and day, and serves to fertilize the plains and wooded hillock height, and cause the crystal mountain stream to take the crimson stain that tells the tale of wail and scream, of mangled, bruised, and slain. Again the sea gulps up its dead as shells upon the shore. Cold Mars himself looks on with dread at madmen drunk with gore, at madmen soaked with human blood, the proudest product of our God. We see two bullies, throat to throat, begrimed, blood-stained, and maimed. We watch the eyes that truly gloat o'er each hard blow well aimed. We watch their strength diminish too, as blow on blow is sent. They clench, they tug, they strike, they chew, till nature's force is spent. They fall, they pommel while they can. Could savage brute do more? At length appears a man, who stops this scene of gore. He says to these belligerents, You, stop, right here and now. Go to your homes in peace from hence, and cleanse your gorish brow. Go to your work in field and shop, as this must stop, as this must stop. The master bullies of today are grappled throat to throat. They fight in war's most deadly way, and they too laud and gloat, as these death dealers pierce the air and murder more and more. The youth, the strong, the brave, the fair, lie sweltering in their gore. The aim at first was quick and true, and none thought of defeat. Today they fight alike the two who pommeled on the street. Today strong men must raise on high a hand not prone to drop, and fling the standard towards the sky that reads, "You stop! You stop!" These Christmas times let's hear again sweet peace on earth, goodwill to men. July 1st, 1915, on Europe's awful carnage. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Broken Sleigh by Ignatius BRENNAN. Read for LibriVox.org by Elaine Conway, England. Driving along a country road on a blustering wintry day, we overtook a boy and a horse, and a grist and her homemade sleigh broken down, for a runner hit K-Thrash in an icy ditch. And the sleigh was held in the V-shaped crack, and was fast in the vise-tight niche. The poor lad's face bore trouble's trace, as he tugged and pried away with an oak fence rail, and to no avail to help release the sleigh. And he worried too, as we both well know, for his troubles were more than one. He had made that sleigh on the summer's day, while he planned on the winter's fun. And again he knew that his father, who had trust in his prowess, would chide him some when he got back home. And the boys in the neighbourhood would never tire in their taunts desire to bring the facts to his mind of that fateful day when he drove his sleigh like a fellow with both eyes blind. Yes, 1,000 arid one-things crossed his mind as he pried with that old fence rail, but his eyes shone bright when he hove in sight, and he felt we would hear his tale. He told his story straight and true, how the snow filled up his eyes, and his sight was dimmed and his fingers chilled and swollen to twice their size, how the horse was wild and hard to guide, as a horse is in a storm. But he knew the road, and he knew this ditch, when the countryside was warm. And he knew, but we bade him tell no more, that his troubles we'd help him share. So we then priced loose the broken sleigh, and improvised right there a runner made from the old fence rail. Then we tied his horse behind our heavy rig, then we took him in, and we drove on 'gainst the wind, till we reached the little cross-road town with its blacksmith shop and mill. When we had the smithy duplicate, the runner, and better still, we turned on back to the icy ditch, where with shovel, axe, and pick we smoothed the road so there'd be no more bad holes where his sleigh would stick. When the boy drove home there were none to chide his woeful plight that day, for the road was fixed and his grist was ground, and he had his much prized sleigh. And we felt better by far that night, in fact have on since then, as this bit of charity done that day had made us both better men. There's a moral that goes with this little tale, and it's full of the choicest weight. 'Tis this: when you trade o'er the road of life, that the road isn't always straight and smooth as the well-kept boulevard that the motor cars spin o'er, but it's full of ruts and holes and ice, and washouts by the score. And again, you'll not always find the one who'll give you the helping hand when he finds you stuck in the ice or the mud, or up to the hub in stand. But you who have heard of these goodly men on this blustering wintry day, who helped the boy from the ice to the mill and the shop where they fixed his sleigh, keep this in mind, should this luck be yours, to find on the road of life some fellow creature fast in the ice when the storm blows on a rife. Don't pass him by, but help him out, as done by these goodly men. Then smooth the road with the pick and axe, so that none will stick again. And try not forget this little tale that I tell in such simple way, of the men and the boy and the grist and the horse and the well-smoothed road and the sleigh. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Siren Song by Ignatius BRENNAN. Recording by Elaine Conway, England. The sirens abroad in this beautiful land, the sirens abreast of the beautiful sea, she's singing a song that but few understand, to music arranged by the skilled master hand. 'Tis sounded to some like the opera grand. She's singing to you, and she's singing to me. The songs that she sings are so joyously sweet, and full soft and light as the May morning's ray. Each line blossoms forth with a message replete, with strains from Utopia's busiest street, where all is perfection, and ne'er will you meet with aught but the choicest of sunshine and play. She sings of the no master, no flag but the red. She sings of no church, and she sings of no creed. She sings of no God and no government head. She sings of free love, but she'd place that instead of death do us part, as so many have said. Songs! Ah, the songs of destruction indeed. Again she does sing, when my songs all come true, we'll labour not more than 2 hours for the day, with same compensation as if we would do 10 hours slavish toil, as she'll choose to construe. Her audience cheers at the old songs anew, and chant every one, if at work or at play. We sit idly by, while the singing is done, and ne'er raise a voice 'gainst her treacherous song, while legions on legions of minds she has won. To her way of thinking, our government's son is doomed to go down for her coyly primed gun. We still lie dormant, yet rated as strong, a million of men who all speak with one tongue, and bound by the hoop that is stronger than steel, is worthy of note when their gauntlet is flung. At the foot of the fount where our freedom first sprung, did Arnold do more when our country was young? The answer is no, when we speak as we feel. You lawmakers, act while it's yours yet to do. Tell these destroyers of rule and of home, place on the ballot is gone, until you discard all these tongues of the treacherous spew. We grant you free speech, but you must not construe it to mean you may shatter the government's dome. You tell them, get out, if they will not comply with our constitution from first to the last. Tell them no rag, as they call it, must fly above our old red, white, and blue to the sky. She is destined to wave from the mountain top high, when theirs of the red will be left with the past. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Uncle Henry Talks the Malcontents by Ignatius BRENNAN. Read for LibriVox.org by Elaine Conway, England. I'm setting by my fireside, just as happy as can be, with my 7th daughter's baby setting straddle of my knee, and I'm wishing, firmly wishing, that all humankind were free, as that prattling little youngster and its grandad, course, that's me. Now when I say free I mean it, just exactly as I say, for there's but one set of free folk in this world of our'n today, And them's the ones that take that good old book from where it lay and heed its blessed guidings in the good old-fashioned way. You take the chill agnostic and his dogmatism doubt. He's shackled worse than any slave the Caesars knew about. He never feels God's spirit from within or from without, as his little 17-ounce brain has put our God to rout. He believes alone in matter and some big creative mind that makes this universe of worlds of wondrous different kinds. He just believes the things he sees, by narrow sight confined. But the Bible, no sir, sir, he puts that old book behind. He can't believe in Jesus as the Son of God, and then he'll quote, if he is God, I'd like to see those wounds again, the same old doubting Thomas, pictured by the Gospel's pen, and he'll claim he's so much smarter than the common run of men. Again you take the socialist, who spiels Utopia, when the sun's rise every morning, till he's setting every day, a-preaching discontentment, though he calls it t'other way. That feller's sleeps o' nightmares, while I'm basking in the hay. He gits his information from them red-backed books o' his, writ by them cunning fellers who make red-backed books their 204, and who sell them to the toilers of the sweat-stained honest phiz, while they smoke their clear Havanas, where the cold winds never whiz. The doctrine's oh so beautiful, it listens mighty weel, and it's doped a little more so when there's some new book to sell. But they'll have to change the hypo pretty soon, and here we'll tell. There's a nigger in the woodpile, and the comrades know the yell. And then we have another bunch, the Unitarian, who say that our Lord Jesus Christ was just a common man. That is, there's one lot say this, but there's yet another clan who say they don't know that he lived but just so short a span. You take their Master Savage, he whose Christian name's Minot. He says our treasured Bible is a complex bunch o' rot, and that the Bible of the Jews is mongrel polyglot. But he, this feller Savage, is a whole blamed cast and plot. Now just because our Saviour doesn't come round spring and fall with "Hello, Mr. Tommy Paine and Bobby Ingersoll, and how is Voltaire making out? So sign us, great and small." There's fellers say we don't believe what we see, that's all. You know I believe there's times when God just sets and laughs his best at these little bits o' fellers with a smaller bit o' zest, who take themselves in earnest and in serious protest. They proceed to knock the Bible and its teachings galley west. Now if they'd set and cogitate, if all the finite brain that exists or ever existed or will e'er exist again could be crowded into one great mind, it could not then make plain how to prepare so as to yield the smallest grass-blade's grain. They might then turn to thoughts whereby they'd read the other side, that tells of just how small we are, and how them that denied have come and gone and left no legacy but one decried, while the good ship Christianity's a riding storm and tide. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Jealousy by Ignatius BRENNAN. Read for LibriVox.org by Elaine Conway, England. Is there one day that passes by that we don't hear this hue and cry? What's wrong with this old sphere? No, not a single hour, much less a day, and said with much distress, "An awful place down here. There's just one wrong, some call it greed, but there's a fitter name indeed, a name that's deeper, deadlier, a name that puts a blot on blur on every land, on every sea, and yoked with woe and misery, jealousy, jealousy, greed, yes, greed is bad enough, envy too is crude and rough, but these would ne'er have been had, not some craven formed the plan to sow within the heart of man, 'mongst other seeds of sin, the one that kills where'er it thrives, the one that's wrecked more human lives than fire and sword and shot and shell, the one that gives a smack of hell, the one that holds us slaves in fee and swears we never shall be free. Jealousy, jealousy, she sits today upon her throne, decisively her own, a rigid autocrat. She sends her forces on their way to conquer only, ne'er dismay or bend to diplomat. We know her wards, with ease we trace the lines in each possessor's face. They never see the sun and shine that, thanks to God, are yours and mine, unless they've quelled all rivalry and triumphed over you and me. Jealousy, jealousy, God made us each to fill one place, and not to lead in every race, but help another win. Then when he's won to grasp his hand and say right from the heart, just grand, and praise his discipline. There's nothing warms the cockles up, there's nothing fills ambition's cup better than to have one tell, "You've surely done your part so well." And since we all appreciate the heart near once possessed by hate, let's help destroy the cursed tree that holds the world in slavery. Jealousy, jealousy. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Post-Election Thoughts by Ignatius BRENNAN. Read for LibriVox.org by Philip Gould. Election day is over, and the balloting is done. The tally sheets disclose to all just who have lost and won. Some come with wreaths of victory from out the fierce-fought fray, but victors, or the vanquished, they are patriots today. We need heed no postmortems on if this or that had been. Our sovereignty has spoken, and the battle ceased its din. Then why not do the gracious thing, in simplest Christian style, and ask the Lord to guide our new officials all the while? We're awed because the Mexicans are always in the fray, blighting their posterity and wealth in surest way. They know none than the war gods call, that call of death so bland, and all because their party is not chosen to command. The only way we differ is, our fight's not one of gore. We start to thwart the country's choice as soon's election's o'er. We breed contention and unrest, from which we should recoil, with ne'er a word of praise to give for honest, faithful toil. Should any foreign country dare to run our colors low, how quickly we would heed the call to deal the crushing blow, obeying to the letter our good general's command, because we know that unity of action saves the land. We'd never quiz the politics of him who told us do the thing to save the honor of the old red, white, and blue. Again, we'd never ask our comrades, side by side us then, if they voted for this party or that party's chosen men. We read about the Tories in those stirring days of old, and know of men like Arnold who was bought by English gold. They're branded traitor when they should have borne another name, and have their niche to be revered within the Hall of Fame. We'll ne'er have peace and plenty worth the trifling Grecian dam, if we but heed these Tories who care naught for Uncle Sam. those chaps who howl calamity forever and anon, and never rightly happy till they've brought the panic on. So, Mr. Politician, with the smile and hearty shake, and cursed store of diatribe, we all are wide awake. The day is gone when you can work your blight of honest men. Whene'er a man needs putting out, we know just how and when. Our ship of state is manned by men who know the shore and sea. They know whereat the buoys float, and where the course is free. And guided by a master hand, no need that we should feel, but safe when true America is at the pilot wheel. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
While We're Here by Ignatius BRENNAN. Read for LibriVox.org by April 6090, California, United States of America. We ne'er could understand just why a person had to do and die before his cherished name would be inscribed with sturdy scroll upon that roll, that splendid roll, within the halls of fame. When, while he lives and doing good, his service is best understood. From personal experience we truly like the present tense, in hearing words of praise when lips are sealed and senses dumb, and we have left for kingdom come. Who cares for these displays, hewn out of marble, cast in bronze, or painted like the sainted ones? So as our doctrines, while we're here, and men of brawn and brain and cheer, man well our ship of state, we feel inclined to tell of them, and crown them with a diadem so bright and up to date, that all may see their photograph long years ere comes their epitaph. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
To Aviator Walsh by Ignatius BRENNAN. Read for LibriVox.org by BettyB. See that feller Walsh go flyin' through the atmosphere? Pretty sight, there's no denyin' way he did appear. Just like some big bird a-soarin' with his wings outspread. Hear his motors snappin', roarin' as he passed o'erhead. But he thwarts our understandin', comin' earthward in his landin'. In them spiral glides o' his, we just watched and said, "Gee whiz! Charlie, there's no doubt about it, ye have got the grit. Couldn't do that stunt without it, hope ye always hit. Mother Earth is smooth and pretty as we saw ye do, for 'twould be an awful pity if ye went askew. Up there where things atmospheric never do the panegyric, then the coming down would be something none would care to see. Walsh, old boy, them dips are pretty, and them spiral glides smack of all that's smart and witty, artistic besides. Make us feel we're glad we're livin' in this wondrous age. But right here we'll be a-givin' counsel like the sage. Keep your mind in good condition, so's 'twill grasp acute contrition, as the time may come some day when you'll want to think and pray. Killed at Trenton, New Jersey, 1 month later. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Mother's Day by Ignatius BRENNAN. Read for LibriVox.org by BettyB. Let us revere 'tis Mother's Day. It comes with sweetest benediction, and too within the jurisdiction of Blessed Mary's month of May. Day when every son and daughter, on the land or on the water, will run back through days and days to those sweet and homely lays sung by her while ever keeping watch o'er them awake or sleeping. Mother, where a sweeter name, where a word in song or story that is wreathed with more glory, those there are enshrined by fame that will ring on down the ages in the tales of bards and sages. But for sentiment and love, no word blessed by him above, nor bespoke by any other, will compare with this one, Mother. She it is who beams with joy when her very self has given choicest gift to earth from heaven, that new soul in girl or boy. She it is who soothes our sorrow. With her all is well tomorrow. She it is who'll stand beside hers when troubles doth betide. See her with her heartstrings ringing, to the cross on Calvary clinging. None there are but sing her praise, none but wreath her round in glory, none but tell the same sweet story of their cherished mother's ways. So today we wear in honor of her who's our greatest donor, white carnations every one, father, mother, daughter, son, grandpa, grandma, and all other, in sweet memory of mother. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Just You by Ignatius BRENNAN, read for LibriVox.org by Joshua Gall. I glance towards heaven's diadem, all set with stars in purest blue. I search my sky and find one gem, 'tis all I need, dear heart, just you. I now list to the songbirds' thrill, each note inspiring, rich and true. There's just one songster to my will, and she, dear one, is you, just you. I walk by beds of roses so, refreshed by heaven's sweetest dew. One flower's all I rightly know, it blooms for me alone, 'tis you. 1,000 hopes I set in dreams, so seldom even one comes true. But one there is, well said it seems, and that blessed hope, sweetheart, is you. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. New Year's Resolution by Ignatius BRENNAN, read for LibriVox.org by Joshua Gall. We don't think one could rightly make a better New Year's resolution than to his inmost workings take a pledge to guard his Constitution. Great big broad and wholesome pledge cuts as well with either edge. Now if we'd take this solemn vow, we'd hear and heed each conscience warning. We'd never draw to foals somehow, nor sing "We won't go home till morning." R.E. Morse would never play his tom-tom in that doleful way. We'd go to bed when bedtime came, and get the rest our bones demanded. We'd rise and dine in happy frame before the grub was second-handed. Buckwheat cakes and sausage hot, coffee 4 cups like as not. We'd never have to bother Doc concerning aches and indigestion, nor suffer from a nervous shock that makes our stomach quiz and question, all about our fertile brain that couldn't stand the tempting strain. We'd jog to work each day on day and show the world we love to labor. We'd jog to work each day on day and show the world we love to labor. We'd never gossip, by the way, about our proud and stuck-up neighbor. None need fear but what we'd do, a right to Christian, heathen, Jew. So while our souls and bodies stand revolting at a dissolution, let's keep the matter well at hand, pledge fealty to our Constitution. Then we'll move without a fear, on from New Year to New Year. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Knight of the Pencil and Pad by Ignatius BRENNAN, read for LibriVox.org by Ian King. Here's to the lad of the pencil and pad, who works while we sleep for the press, who moulds into sense the news items sent hence in a way we'd be proud to express, who gets for all favours a thank you or two, and seems to be pleased with our generous view. No play anywhere, no festival, fair, no wedding, no party, no dance could be the success without this lad of the press, who hands out the boost in advance. And many's the juvenile heart he's made glad, this knight of the pencil and knight of the pad. He's always on hand and right up with the band when anything's doing of note, with the throng at the fair or the mob on the square, the happenings rightly to quote. Though close to the pulpit he rarely will perch, we'll speak of him truly, we've seen him in church. He works through the night by the shimmering light of the bulb or the gas jet or lamp, and lists to the clang of the typewriter's bang and the telegraph instrument's vamp, and ring of the phone in its nerve-racking way, so's we'll have the news when we rise for the day. We'll not recite more of his labour and chore, though just a synopsis we gave. But in fancy we see, when his soul is set free, and his body consigned to the grave, the heavenly portals all swinging a-glad, to welcome the knight of the pencil and pad. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Christmas Spirit by Ignatius BRENNAN, read for LibriVox.org by Joshua Gall. Talkin' about your holidays like 4ths of old July, Thanksgiving with her taffies, nuts, and hunks of pumpkin pie. St. Patrick's Day and Labor Day are all so full of glee, but there's nothin' like the Christmas times that hits the spot with me. You'll note as soon's November's hiked from off the reel of time, the atmosphere grows mellower, the sun is in his prime. The moon looks down so wistfully and sorta seems to say she wouldn't mind a-comin' down to spend the Christmas day. The grouches seem to emigrate to grumpy land, or else they get their livers fixed and smile to beat the band. As every feller that you meet is happy as can be, and seems to say this Christmas biz is just the dope for me. Old Tightwad, who 11 months has tied his purse strings taut, who's kicked and growled at every one, especially when he bought, is crowdin' round the corner with the shoppers full of glee. His countenance displays the fact it's just the stuff for me. We tumble into Wonderland, the land we've trundled through. We see our homes on Christmas when our lives were bright and new. We see the gifts from neighbors and from all our kith and kin, and p'raps we wish, I know we do, to live them o'er again. We see the turkey gobbler when his gobblin' is o'er, dished out with loads of stuffin' and big doughnuts by the score. And we truly wish our stomachs were as good's they used to be, so's we could hit the turkey in the fade-away degree. So gentlemen and ladies, in conclusion we'll suggest, let's all recall the feelin's we've at Christmas times possessed, and when we get them rightly on next blessed Christmas Day, let's lock them in our bosoms, then throw the key away. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. In Memory of Daniel V. Hughes by Ignatius BRENNAN, recorded for LibriVox.org by Joshua Gall. We stand beside your rigid form and gaze upon the face so true, a face in life so kind and warm. 'Tis hard to couple death and you. Will we ne'er see your smile again, nor gaze into those eyes of blue? Nor hear your voice in counsel plain? 'Tis hard to couple death and you. And is it so that nevermore we'll clasp that gracious hand and too receive your greeting as of yore? 'Tis hard to couple death and you. And is it possible until this earthly life is spent and through that we'll ne'er have your laughter's thrill? 'Tis hard to couple death and you. Accentuated in the tone that gives the answer, pray be still. His journey through, his work is done. He bows unto his Maker's will. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Fanny's Death by Ignatius BRENNAN. This is a LibriVox recording by Joshua Gall. Fanny's Death. Fanny, to whom my first little volume is dedicated, in so jocular a way, died on September 4th, 1911. The cause of her death was hemorrhagic pancreatitis. She went from abnormal health to the grave in 24 hours. My Fanny went away from me today. The summons came, was ready to obey. Did not rebel against the call, but bade goodbye to each and all. In voice so firm and tone so clear, she spoke sweet words of faith and cheer. To me, who with a sob-choked breath would ask in awe, "It can't be death!" It can't be death, none wonder why I ask. To those who knew her less 'tis e'en a task. When calling back a yesterday, they see her happy, bright and gay, a mingling with an air carefree in deeds of purest charity. And ere another day took breath, behold her cold and still in death. A heavy pall is laid across my way, a pall that seems to thicken day on day, and none will ever question why I mourn and weep that she should die, when at life's very apex she, the mention of whose name would be a summing up of all that goes, to speak of life and death as foes. The blessed faith e'er taught her from a child, the faith of him so meek, so just, so mild, that faith her solace all through life, when joys ran wild or griefs ran rife, was with her to the last faint breath, and spoke to her of life, not death, of life that lasts through age on age, and this world a mere pilgrimage. Had I e'er been a skeptic and in line with those who speak on him as not divine, or deified, then saw the smile that spread her countenance the while, the words, "Thy will be done," were said, how quickly I would bare my head, and bend my knee in joy to him for having filled life's cup abrim. The world seems oh so different to me since she has gone, and though I know her free from every care and moral strife, and happy, still to lose a wife brings on a grief none can explain but those who've lived through the strain. I hope to live that when I die, I'll spend with her eternity. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Mary and Joe by Ignatius BRENNAN, read for LibriVox.org by phone. Cut in the bark of the sturdy old beech that served as a trysting place long, long ago, we see many names, and around all and each pure strains of sentiment one time did flow. Some are illegible, some gnarled and old, just one happy pair stands as made of pure gold. 'Tis set in bold Romans thus, Mary and Joe. On an old parlor wall in a farmhouse hard by, in a frame warped with age and its print void of glow, is a marriage certificate, hands clasped so shy, and two faded ribbons arranged in a bow. And the minister's name with the witnesses too, attesting this wedding was faithful and true, and written on the bottom is Mary and Joe. In the till, in a chest in the attic above, there are papers galore that so thoroughly show there was true mutuality coupled with love through sunshine and shadow and pleasure and woe. Deeds, bills of sale, and small notes by the score, we watch and admire as we scan them all o'er, each with these signatures, Mary and Joe. There's an old family Bible, all thumb-worn and blurred, that was read when the candlelight burned dim and low, and on Sunday morn when the lark's song was heard, and divers times more on the old portico, it lays mute and sealed like its readers today, but it tells its own tale in a reverent way, the solace it furnished to Mary and Joe. Their life work is known through the whole countryside, and will be for aye as the ages will go, as one where the golden rule ever supplied, its essence the purest, they acted it so. No soul is so scarlet but can be made white, 'tis God renders judgment on what's wrong or right. These were the maxims of Mary and Joe. There's a churchyard quite near with its thorn-covered mound, and those sunk with time where the wild thistles grow, where the sly toad and snake unmolested abound, and the thrush mocks the gloom with its guttural flow. On each grave's a slab, on the ground or askew, but one stands out perfect, erected to two, and cut in the marble is Mary and Joe. There's a home up on high where the faithful rejoice, our mind gives a picture of streets all aglow, with sunshiny faces and clear happy voice, seraphs and cherubs and saints that we know. And in amongst the saints, garbed in God's purest white, we see hand in hand, singing out with delight, the spirits of constancy, Mary and Joe. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Old and the New May Queen by Ignatius BRENNAN, read for LibriVox.org by phone. When all the world was pagan and the earth was young and fresh and green, there lived in fair Italia's land sweet Flora, she of May, the queen. She lived in hearts and minds, and they who thought her their dear Queen of May would scatter 'neath her tread the flowers, God's choicest fruit of April's showers. Her festival, Floralia, meant to all her people mirth and song and happiness. Those opulent and poor made up one happy throng, where all the children, old and young, from every clime, of every tongue, joined in one joyous holiday in honor of their Queen of May. In ancient Rome 2 temples stood at her disposal, one within the Quirinal, where all who could would flock in happy discipline to do her homage, valorous. Then in the Circus Maximus, of wide expanse, the other stood, where legions praised her magnitude. But she was just a deity, a myth, a picture we might say, yet serves e'en now to beautify our simple songs and joys today, when we've a real living queen, pretty and of gracious mien. And how my heart does proudly beat to place this crown on girl so sweet. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Matilda and Julia and Joe by Ignatius BRENNAN. Read for LibriVox.org by Foon. The first 2 were sisters, Matilda the one, and Julia the other was named, with countenances as a May morning sun, and raven-like eyes speaking pathos and fun, and you truly would love, like score others have done, the 2, and be never once blamed. Happy and cultured and pretty besides, with laugh like a clear-sounding bell, at home in the dance where terpsichore glides, at home in the parlor, at home in the tides, at home in the home, or in happy hay-rides, at home with the mountain or dell. They seemed so contented with life and its joys as strifes couldn't live in their air. Looked on life's crosses as simple a noise, their hearts seemed to stand at an equalized poise, and they surely had class, making love to the boys, or soothing each love-lornish care. Their father had died, for we knew them real well, and left a large fortune behind. But all to their mother, those knowing her tell of her strong greed for gold, and whenever it fell for once in her hands 'twould remain quite a spell. She was one of those tight-fisted kind. And she told every prospective suitor who came to call on her daughters that she believed any man would be wholly to blame if he'd not make a fortune, her husband though lame had done it, and none of her girls would gain fame from the moneys that's left him by me. But these girls had their beaux, and they liked beaux real well, as most of the girls always do. And their beaux well returned every thought, you can tell, whenever Dan Cupid is working his spell. And they wooed at the home, and they wooed in the dell, with the best art that Dan Cupid knew. Now Julia got married to one she loved well, and one who was rated as fine, leaving Matilda to battle and quell all morbid love troubles to which the boys fell instinctively heir to. This curt little belle was right in her specified line. Julia's estate had no rival at all, 1,000 green acres or more. Mansions for summer and winter and fall, horses and autos and servants at call, diamond-hung costumes for party or ball, and social companions galore. Time went apace, and a fond lover fell, as if from the heavens above, in on Matilda, and never would quell his earnest love-making until she would tell him fair to his face that she loved him real well. He proposed, she said yes, both in love. A fine fellow he, and a poet as well, the classics to him weren't dry. He'd quote from the master's prosaic a spell, then turn to the master's poetic, and tell his story as rhymed by himself how he'd quell Matilda's love troubles, then sigh. They married, these 2, Matilda and he. He lived with his mother-in-law. He sang for his rations, he penned with such glee. Whene'er a new suit was decided to be the right thing in order, he rhymed perfectly, when penning of Dear Mrs. Shaw. But Dear Mrs. Shaw was a lady whose heart stayed in to the poor and distressed. She never could understand why she should part from her treasured shekels, and right from the start she told her dear daughter, to you I'll impart this message, you 2 should go west. Now Matilda was loved to the fullest degree, there's none who will doubt what I say. Her husband, big, handsome, and happy and free, seemed to revel in love with a sweet ecstasy, for he loved, and he told Matilda with glee, in an artless and childish-like way. Matilda loved home as all good girls should, but this hint was too awfully strong. Her husband's finances were well understood. She knew he was poor, she knew he was good. So she said, "We will go to a new neighborhood, with the thought that we might get along." So they packed their belongings and went to the west, not far to the west I would say. As poets small earnings can't pay fares the best, but they lived just as happy as birds in their nests. And year after year the sweet union was blessed, until 6 hearty children had they. Reverses came on, the children were small. The landlord informed our friend Joe that he wouldn't mind harboring from spring until fall, but he couldn't include the chill autumn and all, the cold, cruel winter without a cash call, so he'd best pack his plunder and go. So they moved to an attic. Their larder was slim, and living was awfully high. Eddie and Henry and Billy, so trim, sold daily papers with exquisite vim. Johnny and Danny shined shoes at the gym, while their pap penned of sea, moon and sky. The hard times came on and business went bad. 'Twas pitiful, true, to behold. This once trim Matilda of spirit a-glad, taking in washing, what know you more sad? Those sweet dimpled arms, trim fingers, no lad or lass of more beautiful mold. Colics and measles, whooping coughs, pains, curse upon curse, o'er and o'er, came to the attic where poverty reigns, where Spartan Matilda was racking her brains to bring about relief, yet she never complains. How could this dear creature stand more? But she did. E'en the attic, wherein they held forth, was ordered vacated forthwith. And just at a time when the breeze from the north was running amuck to its extremest worth, with pantry a-bare, no heat on the hearth, the story seems tinged with the myth. Undaunted Matilda ne'er cringed at the thought, but did as her landlord had bade. Moved to a shack in the slums, where the sot, degenerate beggar and all breathed of naught but sin in its depths, by its best masters taught. E'en there none would notice her sad. But during these trials, these strenuous times, the fate in the one up above never once faltered, sublime of sublimes. Now poetry, perfect transformed from the rhymes of Matilda's fond husband, and dollars and dimes poured in from his verses of love. Up from the ashes, like phoenix of old, apex in full middle sky, critics grew warm who were heretofore cold, publishers battled for stories untold. Each mail brought a check to be bartered for gold, e'en his autograph brought prices high. Pure emanations of unsullied love dripped from his meekly moved pen. Thought you would rate as inspired from above, so sweet to the mind with the peace of the dove. All nature akin was his theme, and he proved that men were to love fellow men. They moved to an attic, no, to a home, surrounded by foliage green, where father and children were anxious to come and pay special tribute of stupendous sum to mother whose firmament lighted the dome of their heaven on earth as its queen. They lived long and well, and the lesson of love in each was so firmly instilled, and mother was worshipped next to him above, each vying with each his affections to prove to her whose light locks only mellowed the groove that time had ungraciously willed. And strange, midst it all she'd ne'er stood at the bier of a child she had mothered so true. Through all of her trials the hot scalding tear had ne'er been the lot of Matilda so dear, and she lived to well round out her 90th year, for God gave her robings anew. The choice of her bosom lays close by her side with his God-given asset of love. Who loved her more dearly the day that she died? Aye, 1,000-fold more than when she was his bride. We prayed our dear Maker will tell them with pride, "Come home, there's no cross up above." End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Mason and Henry by Ignatius BRENNAN, read for LibriVox.org by phone. Mason and Henry, the children were named, and Grandma had made the selections. Foxy old girl, though we never once blamed her for once, or stood out with objections. E'en though they'd been named for her 2 former beaux, her husbands, both, after as chronicling shows. She would never say why she did it, no, this naming of Henry and Mason, and we never knew that Grandma had a beau, most innocent bunch in creation. She always called them their full name right out, while we cut them down to a minimum bout. Well, now to the boys, they were brothers, of course, but no one would guess it, no, never. As Hen was a boy whose good works we'd endorse, while Mace was in trouble forever. That is, far as mischievous deviltry goes, he'd rings on his fingers and bells on his toes. The populace round and about and thereat, wherein he was reared, always knew it, whene'er any tricks were pulled, right off the bat, that Mace was the lad who could do it. And whether he did it, or if he did not, he always was blamed for it, right on the spot. Let some neighbor's wagon be hind wheel in front, or well bucket gone in the morning, or melon patch robbed, or most any old stunt, accomplished without the least warning, the old folks at once could assuredly trace the devil's own hand as developed in Mace. Let some couple wed and try slipping away by fast train that stops at next station. They might play the wise act on others that day, but nix when you're talking of Mason. No, he was right there when the fast mail pulled in, with horse fiddles, cowbells, and makers of din. Let some old one die, say along past threescore, and everyone bowed down with sorrow. Mace was right there at the wake with his lore that kept all a smile to the morrow. Then as a pallbearer, cool as you please, the cooler, the more the infectious disease. Revivals by Methodists, Baptists, or Friends, no matter the denomination, were ne'er a success at obtaining their ends without the assistance of Mason. But when the suggestion of Mourner's Bench came, he sidestepped the issue with, "Not in the game." His father would worry, his mother would fret, his sisters would say, "What a pity." They knew as their brother he'd disgraced them yet, as well as their kin in the city. They'd wonder why Mace couldn't be like good men. He knew, of course, they were alluding to Hen. Hen was his mama's boy, e'er and anon. She taught him hygiene by the measure, civics and suffrage and art by the ton, and culture, the one chiefest treasure. He gulped these things down like a hungry man would, his beans and his bacon, was sure that he should. He'd do calisthenics each morning at 6, then walk 7 miles for his dining. Then feast on toast posties or some other mix, because it was good for refining. He'd lunch on salt wafers and cool aquae, as down went the sun at the close of the day. His baths were 2, daily, at noon and at night, the hot and the cold with the shower. These made his complexion as perfect a white as the lily that grows in the bower. Half his time was consumed in his bodily care, from the feel of his feet to the lay of his hair. His suits were the latest in tailoring art, either loose-like or extra tight-fitting. And ofttimes I feared that the latter would part, whene'er he'd abruptly be sitting. The rest of his rig corresponded in taste, from his hat and his shoes to the belt round his waist. His realm was society, week in and out. Lord Chesterfield never was in it. Whene'er our friend Henry was there or about, he never could post for a minute. His father and mother and sisters and all just basked in his manners at party or ball. Now, Mace didn't give a particular cuss for laws of hygiene or of styling. He jogged right along without blister or fuss, and all the while pleasant and smiling. The walks before breakfast and baths twice a day ne'er troubled his dreams as he slept in the hay. He always was fond of potatoes and beans, boiled cabbage and sausage and chicken. He revelled in bliss o'er fat bacon and greens, and said to his ribs they'd be stickin'. He claimed that those heavy things never would hurt, and swore pickled pig's feet made splendid dessert. Henry got married, the papers were full of all the events thus connected. Married a girl who'd a dad with a pull, and this was no more than expected. His wife was a lady with taste like himself, regarding the living and spending of pelf. They never were known as with purse strings untied, or to do any reckless subscribing to this cause or that, and they always decried any thoughts of the over-imbibing. They lived to be rated as living just grand, but added each week to their balance on hand. Right from the start they agreed that the thing to do was be all the while prudent. Their minds ran together as straight as a string, and each was an elegant student. Regarding the theory, put this away in sunshine for use on a rainier day. Many a pleasure they'd rightly forego by figuring, we'll see that later, as e'er and anon there'll be circus and show, and we can enjoy them with greater gusto when down in our hearts we discern the feeling the price is the least of concern. But not so with Mace. He'd his ear to the ground for all things that savored of pleasure. Right in the front seat he was sure to be found, enjoying each act with a measure that made the performer feel happy and smart, as this laddie knew when he played well his part. Haunted the footlights when winter was on, and knew every actress and actor. No game worth the name could be rightly begun unless he was there as a factor. Look o'er the bunch at each sporting event. Mace was right there if it took his last cent. Marry? No, heavens, too busy a man. He ne'er had a moment to tarry, for aught but the thing of the sportsmanlike plan, and this ne'er includes the word, marry. Long, long 'fore his parents had died they did ask that he get a wife, but this game was a task. Nothing is truer than time goes apace, nothing can stop or retard him. One day he asked for a hearing from Mace, who tried every way to discard him. But time can't be thwarted, he held up to view the glass that reflected back age 62. Showed him his brother with family all grown, all happy in highest of station. Each well equipped so's to battle his own way through life with elation. Showed him a page from the old book of life that read, all alone with no family or wife. Showed him the past panoramically planned, showed him his partners in pleasure. Showed him the day he was much in demand, showed him his misapplied treasure. Showed him, but why show the poor fellow more? Mace was a wreck on remorse cold shore. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Happy John and Solemn Joe by Ignatius BRENNAN. Read for LibriVox.org by phone. Happy John and Solemn Joe lived way out in Idaho. Out where Indians roam at will over mountains, dale, and hill. Civilized as me and you, and living like all others do. So there lived in Idaho Happy John and Solemn Joe. Brothers, but no more alike than Parson Brown and Red-Nosed Ike. John from birth just loved this earth. Laughed and cooed when in his crib, and always wore a slobbered bib. Seemed to know his ma's desire, then go and do the opposite, for naught else but raise to her ire, and in laughter throw a fit. When the time arrived that he went to school like you and me, study? Yes, he learned with ease, went right through his ABCs, like greased lightning. Spelling, well, we knew no word he couldn't spell. Same with reading, history, penmanship, geography, grammar, physiology, arithmetic, geometry. All the branches on the list never gave his brain a twist. Learning, so the teachers said, was just like eating gingerbread to Happy John, but say, doggone. This learning quickly and with wit gave him too much time to sit and trump up devilment, the kind that havocs every teacher's mind. He'd draw the teacher on his slate, resembling much a reprobate, showing her spitculs psyche not, and bustle big's a coffee pot. Show a big stick in her hand, and faced as giving some command. Glasses high upon her nose, and dressed in real old-fashioned clothes. Fearful we'd not recognize her features and her bustle's size. He'd write below, so's we'd all know, Our Teacher, in full Roman caps. Of course we'd laugh. Now if, perhaps, the teacher cast her eyes towards John, he'd be so earnest while he'd con some heavy thought within his brain, and looked as in an awful strain. Wrap a paper ball as tight and hard's a stick of dynamite. Then look slyly all around the room until he knew he found some real studious thinking chap, when he'd bang it cross, kerslap! 'Gainst some fellow's jaw, you know, just like as not his brother Joe, or a girl, it mattered not, to this lad at whom he shot. He could shoot as straight and true as any gun you ever knew. Doggedest scamp you ever saw, seemed he lived to break the law. Of course it ne'er was his intent to do aught but pure devilment. Wouldn't harm the little flea, if it hurted, no siree. Just so kind of heart, and say he'd give his very boots away, if he thought that you would need them worse than he would indeed. Take, we'll say, recess or noon, when your appetite's in tune, when an apple's nice to eat, and hunk of pie tastes just so sweet. If he thought that you perhaps had poorer ma's or poorer pap's than he had, couldn't rest, till you'd half his very best, apple or his share of pie, that he terms a luxury. Figured he could get along, and wanted you as big and strong. Then, when eating all was done, in for any play or fun. Baseball? Phew! You bet he'd play, if they'd let him, all the day. Liked to get the pitcher hot, and pound his curves all o'er the lot. Run the bases like a deer, didn't have a bit of fear sliding into any base, on his back or on his face. Just went right in with a smash. Bang! He's off, he's in, katrash! Played the center field, and my! Never saw him muff a fly. Let some batter rap one out, towards the center. Hear them shout, from the stands in awful yell, "That old ball is in a well!" You folks know how those things go. Ought to have seen him on the ice, when the creek was frozen nice. Skate all sorts of fancy things, figure-8s or pigeon wings. Tell the truth, I've seen him go 40 miles an hour or so. Anything that smacked of fun, he was there with big bells on. Finished common school and led in every branch, and oft we said that his brain was surely made to compare in every grade with his body and his limb, best of stuff like all of him. Went to college, same boy John, there once more with sleigh bells on. Played their games and studied too, just went sailing right blink through. Graduated, if you please, with LLs and PhDs. His mother used to say that he was just like all her family, except, of course, these cussed tricks, and they were all his Uncle Dick's, on his father's side. But take, looks and all that goes to make up the man of fine physique. John was hers from toe to cheek. When the father'd hear this thing, he'd just whistle, hum or sing. Well, in fact, was pleased to know, the mother loved their boy John so. With his education through, started in for revenue. Hung his shingle, that of law, right of course, where all well saw. Business came right from the start, for clients know the man that's smart. Always ready with his case, judge and jury face to face. Won most cases too, by jing, just to beat out everything. Made immense amount in fees, all till what comes in with ease goes as easy. This was true of John from every point of view. Worked all day and bummed all night to his uttermost delight. At the dance or at the show, always found him on the go. Made companionships, the kind not prone to elevate the mind. With roisterers who go to clip, who like a little social nip of a famous highball sort, and end most times in sprees of sport. Banquet table ne'er complete, doubt he held the choicest seat. Scintillating chap, would tell stories that would make you yell with delight, and he could sing, ragtime or most anything. Marry? No, he never wed, wouldn't think 6 months ahead. Girls all liked him, mannerly as Chesterfield could dare to be. Treated them to cream and cake, and was always sure to take some good girl to dance or show, but no wedding bells, no, no. Thoroughly improvident, wouldn't save a blessed cent. Now we'll tell of Joe a while, boy and man of different style. Learned his lessons not so fast as John, but learning came to last. Played all games and played them well, but couldn't give the Indian yell, nor cut the fancy figure-8s on flying ice or roller skates. Couldn't bat nor run the bags, or wouldn't carry heavy jags like Happy John, but he went through common school and college too. Graduated, yes sirree, from Harvard University. Was a lawyer too, like John, but not the kind who dotes upon collecting fees, then up and go, the pace the boys call make her snow. No, Joe was aught but miserly, but when he gathered in a fee, he did what any man should do, who holds the future up to view. Paid his debts and took the rest to bank or some place to invest. Public-spirited was he, no appeal for charity. Ever passed him by unseen. Gave, and with a gracious mien, towards all movements that were good and would benefit the neighborhood. Had his pastimes, like the game of baseball, was in happy frame of mind when bowling 10 pins. None, in the golf games had more fun than he, and at the dances why, no waltz or two-step e'er went by, unless he had it. All these he enjoyed in very best degree. Yet, while he loved the dance and game, he went to bed when bedtime came. So when the new day came around, his mind and limbs were clear and sound. Married? Yes, a splendid wife, and children to complete a life. So well endowed by nature's God, a life to copy none would trod the path the misled one enjoys. So filled with pleasures and annoys. These pleasures, taken temperate, would only serve to elevate, but taken to that cursed degree, whereby we're slaves to revelry, is where the fault comes in, and then we have no place with sober men, who want to deal with minds most clear, and not with those with eyes a blear. Joe's home is a home of love, divinely handed from above, a home where every heart is clean, a home with Blessed Mary, Queen, a home wherein we're taught her son o'er death a splendid victory won, a home where when the shades of eve have fallen none would care to leave, a home where all are gay and bright, and happy morning, noon, and night. The only time a gloom would come to throw its shadow o'er this home was when poor John would stagger in, all worn and haggard, bent and thin, a shadow of the former day of romp and revel, dance and play, a mendicant at 55, just when he should begin to live, and Joe's door ne'er was close to him. Instead, he filled his cup a brim as best he could. He'd chat about the days when both were young and stout, of cases lost and cases won, and all good things that John had done. He'd tuck him tenderly in bed, with softest pillows 'neath his head. The children ne'er were taught to know that Uncle John had met that foe that ne'er was conquered in this world, and with his standard e'er unfurled, enlists the gay and guileless youth who does not heed the living truth. They never knew, and none must tell, of pedestal from which he fell. But they were taught true charity, which does not mean a coin tossed free to some outstretched and palsied hand, but love of all that's good and grand. His every wish and every whim was always gladly granted him. The bright mind, once the country's pride, and now at autumn's high noontide, as far as nature did intend, is in its winter, at its end. The feet that once raced like the deer, and brought out many a joyous cheer, the limbs once lithe as the gazelle, and sped o'er many a mountain dell, the splendid breast that knew no pain, and heaved always in happy vein, the brawny arm that raised on high, the cap on some new victory, are withered, and the splendid heart that ever did its valiant part beats low, and every vein it filled with purest blood is choked and chilled. The courted hand of death is now laid heavily upon the brow. The choirs sing out the requiems o'er one of nature's primest gems, consigned to earth we may well say by his own hand this early day. And now the green grass grows upon the well-kept grave of happy John. Well kept, you ask me? Yes, 'tis so. By Joe. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Upper and the Nether Stone by Ignatius BRENNAN, read for LibriVox.org by phone. Jevverbank, you know, I mean depositing the old long green, the thing that makes the wheels spin round and keeps awhir that welcome sound we hear within the Martin mill as sweet's the music of the rill. Because we know with all a hum our ship of state is travelling some, a-steaming at a speed whereat we each one take our turn at bat. Now during times when all goes well, just helter-skeltering, pell-mell, each worker at his chosen trade, producing wares of every grade from dreadnoughts on to Christmas toys, We all are happy, girls and boys, and men and women too are glad, forgetting all cares ere they had, all figuring in thoughtful mien where to invest their surplus green. 'Tis then the banker hoves in sight, with countenance a beaming bright, with facts and figures showing how 'tis best to bank with him, right now, because he pays an extra purr that makes it mighty nice, yes sir. He shows you just how easy 'tis to borrow from that bank of his. He also promises to tell where to invest and do it well. So in she goes, there's naught to do but just keep on adding to our bank account until we feel the investing spirits o'er us steal. Town lots are laid out here and there, we buy from those right on the square. So much per month, so much in hand, we're growing rich to beat the band. We now arrange with Mr. Shott to build a house upon our lot. The house is built the self-same way we bought the lot, so much per pay, with so much down. We then proceed to dope out just the things we'll need to fill that house from attic to the laundry. This thing's something new. We find the place whereat we're told, your credit's just as good as gold. We buy, and too, the stuff we got, the way we bought the house and lot. Now all things seem like one sweet song, we meet our payments right along. We sing and dance, and goodness knows, we take in all the picture shows. We talk on, with our payments through, we'll take a trip to Timbuktu, with stop-off privilege whereby we've time to hit the places high, like old New York and gay Paris. Our castles are of some degree. We'll dress, of course, from shoe to tile, in just the very latest style. Our wife will wear the latest brands of fashions to suit all the lands through which we spin, and Tom and Joe, and Dan and John and Nell and Flo, Madeline, Catherine and May, will all be togged the self-same way. Happy? Surely! Lord, how sweet! 2 years more, we're on Easy Street! We'll stop at none but best hotels, right with the biggest bows and bells, of just the highest order too, because this so much per is through. But hist, the sound we've heard before, someone's knocking at our door. We open to find 'tis Mr. Shott, and he from whom we've bought the lot. And he so changed, so stern and cold, who placed our credit good as gold. We're told in words right to the point, the money system's out of joint. Astringencies throughout the land. To purchase now means cash in hand. The mills and mines have ceased to hum. In fact, the country's on the bum. To keep our credit unimpaired, we want all bills, outstanding, squared. They talk of mortgages that they could foreclose, well, most any day. They leave. We seek our telephone to tell our woes to Mr. Sloan. The banker with the extra purr, the line is busy, comes from her, who sits upon her bamboo mat, bowed like the Turkish autocrat. We fly to Mr. Banker, oh, as fast as our old legs can go, to ask a loan, a year at least. But Mr. Sloan is over east. Money's tight, the teller sad, the cashier's home, laid up in bed. The board instructs us hold on tight to every blessed cent in sight. E'en moneys on deposit we are told to guard most zealously. They ask 10 days at least before they'll cash a check for 10 or more. No use explaining, Mr. Dupe, I feel you're due to loop the loop. And loop it is, the loan came not. We lost our house, we lost our lot. Our furniture was fanned away, and, far as we're concerned, to stay. We took the flat once occupied by us before we swelled with pride. We'll do the best we can, for we have learned one book, philosophy. There's one especial part, our own, between the top and netherstone. We've seen these jolly banker boys. When things are right, they make a noise that sounds like this. To all a friend, advice to give and cash to lend. We've seen the other fellow too, the one who never jollies you, but there, for business every day, when done in his precise old way. Let times be good or times be bad, no over east for this bland lad. And during stringent times like these, we're keeping cases, if you please. We sit and talk the matter o'er, and find we've company galore, who know the banks that firmly stood, well phalanxed for our neighborhood. We know who'll get the business when financial skies are clear again. We know the ones that would not own an upper and a nether stone. We know the ones who'll take us through, and the ones that lost us, Timbuktu. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. End of Humorous Poems by Ignatius BRENNAN.